You are most welcome back to do Matchbook's weekend football podcast. We're a small bit later on Thursday this week at 5:30 kickoff for us. But obviously, there's a hell of a lot of Premier League games midweek. And I wanted to give these guys a bit of time because they're not machines. Well, Mark is probably a machine, all right, in different ways. But I do want to give these guys a bit of time to prep. And Adrian, Clarke, it was a good midweek for us. We've had some good winners. Let's do a quick recap. We obviously have the Tottenham-Liverpool game to go to tonight. So if you're watching this on Friday or Saturday, you'll know if the guys have really knocked it out of the park. But we had some good ones. Everton, Leicester, draw 3.4. Adrian, you said that should have been favourite. So you've got a hell of a price there at 3.4. Wolves +1. I'll come to you in a second about that, Mark, 1.78. Bristol City, great show as well, Adrian, 2.5. And the Gunners, 2.35. You talked us into it.
I talked myself into it as well. Well, Mark, I give a little bit of credit to Mark because I was unaware. I fancied Arsenal prior to the chat, but once he told me that the two fullbacks were out, then that absolutely convinced me. And look, Arsenal were good value. It was an excellent performance. So, very glad that we went down that route.
Mark, you were very bullish on Wolves plus a goal of 1.78. I checked that about maybe 2 hours before kickoff, and it was 1.67. So you were definitely on the market there. The market was moving with you. However, that has not always worked in our favour this year. But it was a good look, even though they have 22% of possession. But it never really looked like it was in doubt at any stage.
Yeah, mind-numbing, boring game to watch.
Yes.
It was nice to win, and don't really care if it's a boring match when you're picking up a profit from a match. But
absolutely,
interesting performance from Chelsea. Really, lots of possession, very ponderous though, without any penetration. Interesting system switch as well. But Tuchel saying he was going for experience, but a lot to work on there for Chelsea's perspective. But from a Wolves angle, obviously they'll be delighted. Never really looked in massive danger and probably had the best chance of the game themselves to win it. So, it kind of went as we expected. Wolves to sit in deep, defend and try and counter. Didn't get too many opportunities to do so, but pleased to get the winner for the podcast.
Yeah. On that score, Sully, it's sometimes we don't always get it right, but I think what we'd said there was that Wolves had been a bit loose at the back. They started conceding more goals, and we just fancied Nuno to go back to the tried and trusted men behind the ball, 5 at the back, and
did he? Yeah.
Yes. So it was an awful game. Chelsea been tweeting out, in praise of making over 800 successful passes. Quite ridiculous, but there you go. That's another story.
Absolutely. When the other team gives you the ball, that's what you're going to do, make the passes. Just quickly on that, the general tone of what I was getting from the BT analyst was, what's this Tuchel guy up to? He's barely been in the job a day. And, it's just... Yeah, exactly. And it's just always like pro Lampard. You're like, come on, this guy's won trophies in other countries. You've got to give him the time. He obviously is a good coach, and it will pay out long term.
It's what we've learned from Tuchel's first game sort of analysis, which is kind of grating my gears. The guy's barely even been in the job. Give him a couple of weeks before you start making snapshot assumptions about what he's going to do.
He didn't even know some of the players' names. That's, it's way too much to be taking early doors. So what we're going to do today, we're going to lead off with Arsenal versus Manchester United, Leicester versus Leeds. We're then going to do Villa's trip down south to St. Mary's to take on Southampton, West Brom, Fulham's relegation 6-pointer. We're going to do EFL bets, Marcus a couple from Europe, and we'll do best bets. So let's get straight into it, gentlemen. Arsenal versus Manchester United is the first game we want to talk about today. The prices at the time of recording at Matchbook, you can back the Gunners at 2.95, which is just under 2-1 in fractional terms. Manchester United 2.59. That was actually 2.4 before they lost, of course, to Sheffield United last night. The draw was 3.48. Draw no bet. You can back United here at 1.85 and the Gunners at 2.08. And 2.5 is the total. And Adrian, you coming into this one, big win for the Gunners down in St. Mary's, 3-1. United lost 2-1 at home to Sheffield United. And, what have we been saying about United? Look, that's basically what we think they are, But the Gunners on a bit of a crest of a wave. They're only 5 points outside the Champions League places, Adrian. So what do you think about this one?
Well, the fixture list has been kind to them. It's allowed them to build up some confidence. I think they've scored 14 in the last 6. They've scored 12 in the previous 14. That shows you the improvement. So they go into the game with definitely renewed confidence, and probably one of their best performances of the season against Southampton. It was really good, excellent display. And what they did in the game, they squeezed. They did what Southampton like to do to other teams. They pressed really high, with aggression. They squeezed the life out of Southampton, and that's how they beat Manchester United at Old Trafford. If you cast your mind back to that win earlier on in the campaign, 1-0 at Old Trafford, very, very proactive. They took a chance, had a higher line than maybe they were comfortable with in the first half, but it worked, and then they got the lead and sat and defended it, much like we saw against Southampton. So that, I think, will be the blueprint. It'll be a fast start from Arsenal this time, and they'll look to do exactly the same to Manchester United. And look, Aubameyang, I think, will be back for this one. I think the situation with his mother is getting better, so that's a boost. Saka's playing fantastically on the right. Yeah, Pepe was great the other day as well. All I'll say for those that are interested in backing Arsenal here, and I'm tempted to, I think the price is good. You know, they've won this fixture 2-0 in the last 2 seasons as well. Arsenal, good home record against United in recent times. Just wait for the team news potentially, because Smith Rowe is 50-50, I believe, and Thomas Partey as well. Limped off with what we think was cramp, but no one's really confirmed that. So Partey and Smith Rowe and Kieran Tierney, who missed that game, 3 of their better players really. They could be out, they could be in. I think that will make a potential difference to those that are interested in backing Arsenal. I mean, on United, obviously great unbeaten run away from home. Got to respect that, but you also think, is this the fixture where maybe it comes to an end? And I just thought they were really lethargic against Sheffield United. The body language of the players was terrible. I mean, even Marcus Rashford, Human of the Year. I mean, he's been such a great person. Even he looked disinterested in the game. It was a really strange performance from United. So I would expect Ole to get into them a little bit ahead of this, thinking about it as an ex-player. He'll get stuck into them and wind them up, I think. So I wouldn't expect a repeat. I think this could be a good game. Where I'm going with this, not quite sure really. I like Arsenal at the price, but I potentially like over 2.5 a little bit more. I think 1 point, edging towards 1.9 on that, isn't it, at the moment? It's happened in 60% of Arsenal's games so far. They'll definitely go into this with an attacking mentality. And I think United might as well. So, I'm looking at the overs. Although the draw, again, is well priced.
I was looking at this, yeah.
You can easily see this being a drawn game. So look, I know I've sort of covered a few bases there, but hopefully given you a flavour of the sort of game to expect.
Well, look, hopefully Marco here will send you over the edge. And Marco, I said about that market move on United, that they were on the drift in the last 24 hours, obviously in the back of the bit of recency bias with that loss to Sheffield United. But what do you think about this market? Is 2.6, if they edge even further than that, is that a bit of a kind of a false leading price? Because they are terrific away from home. They can just turn it on.
Yeah, I found this one quite tough, in all honesty. I think when I looked at it originally, and you said the price on United at 2.4, not for me. The bigger they get, the more interest I get. But at the moment, I kind of look at Arsenal plus a quarter. I'd rather be going that way than anything else on the handicaps. But again, not too keen to invest right now because I don't know the team news, as Adrian's already mentioned that. And I think he was absolutely damn right to say about the soft schedule as well, because that has been in Arsenal's favour. But I also had a look back to when Arsenal lost their last league game in the Premier League away at Everton that time. You look at the team sheet that day, they had Saka at left wing back, Maitland-Niles at right wing back, and Nketiah up front with Willian and Pepe flanking him. Only 5 of that side played against Southampton in midweek. The system's changed. The players who have come in, particularly Saka, who's moved further forward and started to express themselves in an attacking manner. It's been chalk and cheese really from an Arsenal perspective, and it's quite exciting for them coming into this match. But at the same time, I'm not quite as sure it'll be as open and as exciting and as interesting as potentially Adrian does, because I think there'll be a fair amount of respect on both sides of the divide here. And you mentioned United's away record. It is fantastic, unbeaten for over a year in the Premier League away from home. They hadn't been beaten in the Premier League since that game against Arsenal back in November, before the Sheffield United game either. So for all the criticism and the kind of questioning we've given United all season, they have been quite capable of getting results. However, what I was really surprised about this morning was just looking through the figures. United haven't actually beaten a Big Six team or Leicester. So that's quite surprising in that regard. And I think Arsenal, their record in the last 8 at the Emirates since December 2018 against the Big Six, just one defeat. And they also beat City and Chelsea on the way to the FA Cup final, to winning the FA Cup, I should say, as well. So Arteta has had a handy knack of getting results against these bigger teams when they're up against it. So, not up against it, but underdogs, if you like, in this kind of fixture. So I've said it a few times now. I've given the statistics a few times on these shows about how the big games and the big teams involved this season have tended to be quite tight, quite attritional affairs, quite unwatchable matches actually too. So that's kind of where I was heading. I did have the draw written down as well as probably the result or the handicap I wanted to take, but unders as well for me would appeal. It was 2.1. It's come in. So whilst it's even money and bigger, I'm still interested. 10 of the 15 Big Six meetings this season have gone unders. 4 of those games ending 0-0, and collectively between Arsenal and United, under 2.5 has banked in 6 of 9 games against Big Six opposition as well. So there has been a tendency for kind of tight games in this sort of scenario. And I just think potentially United want to play on the counter-attack, potentially Arsenal too. Adrian disagrees in that regard in terms of taking the game to United. They might well do, but I'm not overly confident in terms of the selection for this one. So it would be the draw and then under 2.5 goals after it.
What were the odds, Sally, on Arsenal plus a quarter goal?
It was pretty sure. It's about 1.74. Sorry, apologies, 1.75. It's a small bit bigger than that, plus a quarter. Now, the alternative there, if you wanted to get a better price, you can go back to them at a draw no bet at 2.1, which is obviously 11-10 in fractional terms, and the draw is 3.48, just under 5-2 in fractional terms. So, I mean, that's the general kind of the alignment. I said there's definitely probably the values on the draw here in this one. You guys, in fairness, tend to be pretty solid when you do pick a draw. It's rare, but it sometimes is wonderful.
United, as I said, against the Big Six teams and Leicester, they've drawn with Man City, they've drawn with Leicester, they've drawn with Liverpool, they've drawn with Chelsea, they lost 1 goal to Arsenal, and of course there was the 6-1 against Spurs earlier in the season, which was just a crazy game. So
I think Arsenal draw no bet is my favourite of all the ones we've discussed personally, but yeah.
Happy. I think it's odds against Mark. I mean, that's probably not a bad look. 2.08 Arsenal plus 0.0.
Me.
Yeah, I'm just. I'm trying to push him into the bet. See that what I'm doing, Adrian? I'm like, come on, Mark, come with us.
If you want, I know you like take it. I'll be holding off for the moment. The draw for me is still the best play, but I'll wait for the 11s.
Yeah, I think that's sensible.
Sounds good. Adrian, it probably is sensible. Adrian, I'm going to back you again this time at the Gunners. I might wait until the team news. I think that is a sensible way to approach it. But I'm comfortable with that. Okay, let's move on. Leicester against Leeds United. Leicester City's biggest fan here, Mark O'Hare. I'm going to come to you first for this, mate. You can back the Foxes just under 1.88. Leeds 4.15. The draw available at 4.1. Leeds getting a half goal start. Good odds against there, 2.06. And the total is 3, shaded towards the under at 1.9. Big win for Leeds. You felt they needed that, Mark. They were in a bit of a slump there. But what did you make of Leicester here? Is it a backable price at just under 1.88, Mark? Or would you want a bit more juice in that to be getting involved in them here?
Obviously, I'd want more, but I'm going to get involved with it because I think it's a fair enough price. I can't help thinking back to the reverse game at Ellen Road early November. Before the game, Brendan Rodgers was interviewed on Sky Sports about the match and asked to sort of explain how Leicester were going to approach it. And he was quite explicit in how they were going to do it. And he sort of mentioned Leeds' weaknesses that they pinpointed and talked about how Leicester were going to make them pay, if you like, and exactly how he explained it. Leicester went out and took advantage of Leeds' errors and won the game quite convincingly in the end. So he was quite smug about it post-match, as Brendan always is. But I suspect he'll kind of follow the same blueprint here because Bielsa absolutely will. Bielsa's not going to change the way Leeds play, and that's why we love them. They don't care if you're Man City or if you're Morecambe. They're going to play in exactly the same manner, and that is quite kamikaze when you come up against the big teams. It's proven quite so often now this season against the Big Six and Leicester. I think the expected goals against is around 50%. Basically 50% of the total XG they've conceded have come against these big teams. And they've been getting results against the lesser lights. That's why they're not in the relegation mix. But I love Leeds to bits, but I just think Leicester are too shrewd for them. Before Wednesday night, they'd won 9 of 11 Premier League games against teams in 10th and below, and they just have a habit of collecting these results in matches that you're expecting them to do so. Adrian outlined their qualities in midweek superbly, particularly the midfield. I know Ndidi went off against Everton, so he is a doubt, but Mendy can slot back in, and there is no Varley still, but they've made the situation reasonably well without him. He's not scored since Christmas anyway. So you look at Leeds, and they weren't at their best against Newcastle at all. Quite fortunate, really, I thought, to pocket the points in that game. But you just, as I mentioned earlier, exclude the bottom 6. They've actually lost 8 of 12 games this season, and they've conceded 3 or more goals in 5 of 7 away games when you exclude that bottom 6 category as well. So I just think Leicester have the quality to exploit them, the pace, panache, and craft really in forward areas that can hurt them even without Vardy. So I think 188 is fair enough for the home win.
Yeah, less strong vote of confidence for the Foxes there from Mark. In agreement, Adrian?
I'm jumping aboard the Foxes ship. I am. Look, I agree with everything that Mark said there. They've adjusted well without Vardy. I think Maddison and Barnes are in fantastic form. Tielemans as well is playing superbly. I mean, there's always a slight worry with Leicester this season at home because they drew blanks, didn't they, against Everton, West Ham and Fulham, and Leeds aren't dissimilar in the way that they'll try and hurt them. But you can't trust Leeds, not away from home. I mean, one of the stats of the week for me is that they conceded 22 shots against Newcastle. This is Newcastle. I mean, what's going on there? I mean, they were very open. They lost the ball in some really bad areas. If you concede 22 shots against Leicester, one of the most ruthless sides in the Premier League, you'll lose by 5. So they've got to be really, really careful. Obviously, they've conceded heavily against most of the better teams on the road this season as well. So and in the game that they won at Everton, they rode their luck. I mean, they faced a lot of shots that day. So no, I do think Leicester will win. I'm not convinced it'll be a really high scoring game. I think the line's quite high. I noticed that you can get under 2.75 at well above evens. So that would be interesting to me. This is a Chelsea team that beat Chelsea a Leicester team that beat Chelsea 2-0 at home, Southampton 2-0. I don't see them trouncing Leeds, but I do see them, in the words of Mark, they're just being too shrewd, too canny for Leeds United here. So yeah, for me the pick is Leicester at the price 1.89ish, wasn't it? Yeah,
1.88. It looks a good price. I think with a few of those Leicester injuries, I think it's built in the price anyway. I think indeed is a doubt, and Vardy's obviously still out. But I think that's built into the price. So yeah, it just seems like a good price, and they've got plenty of depth. Yeah. And let's hope that we can just get one of these Leicester ones right, because we did get one right before Christmas, but before that I was like, we couldn't get on side with them. But it just does look a good look to me anyway.
They were the better team against Everton.
They were good against Everton, weren't they? They were definitely the better team.
Yeah, and Everton are stronger than Leeds. So I think I fancy Leicester here.
All right, strong vote of confidence for Leicester there. Let's move on. Southampton and Aston Villa is next up. Adrian, I'll come to you here for this, but I'll take a look at the betting. It's a Saturday night game at St. Mary's. You can back Southampton 2.88, Villa at 2.55. The draw is available at 3.68. Southampton getting... It's actually an even line on the Asian handicap. Draw no bet was obviously favouring Villa here at just under 1.87. You can back Southampton draw no bet at 2.06, and the total is 2.75. Adrian, I know Southampton are on this kind of funny run, and it almost seems like that they kind of had their purple patch, when they were beating Liverpool and whatnot, and they ended 2020 well, and you kind of wonder, are they just kind of in this kind of definite trough right now? But I was kind of looking at this market, and I thought it might be a bit closer to more. Am I way out here? Or
I mean, Southampton have got a very good home record. Obviously they've lost to Arsenal, they lost to Spurs, they lost to Manchester United. In the other games, they barely conceded a goal. They lost to Manchester City, didn't they? So, but other than that, I mean, they've been super solid. But my issue, and I've watched Southampton twice this week against Arsenal,
of course,
with their strongest team. And I wasn't blown away with them when they won, and I certainly wasn't that impressed with them when they were beaten by Arsenal. Villa, a very strong away team. I mean, I think they're probably still scratching their heads at how they lost to Burnley. They got Burnley, didn't they? Basically, a couple of headers in the box, big, powerful front men, and a slightly fortuitous sort of cross shot going in. I think ordinarily they'd win that game with that performance 8 times out of 10. So I wouldn't read too much into the Villa defeat. But yeah, Southampton, Armstrong's looking good. Ings, I think, is feeling his way back. I think he looks pretty sharp. But Southampton with those missing defenders, and I think at least one of them is likely to be out again for this match. They were weak in the fullback areas, and Villa are really strong, obviously out wide. You know, Grealish peels wide a lot, doesn't he? But we know that Traore's playing well. Ross Barkley will peel out their target as well. So no, I think Villa can cause the Saints problems in the game. But equally, I think that Southampton can score goals against a Villa team that have lost 3 away games in a row. You can't ignore that either. So yeah, I did look at both teams to score here, but it's too short to get involved with. Really, I think 1.57. So probably looking at the overs, the way that Southampton were defending the other night, the way that Villa crumbled, and remember they're up against Ings and Adams, Walcott too. So yeah, over 2.5 appeals to me. It's not a huge price, 1.73, but in a match where it is hard to pick the winner. If you were to push me, I'd say Villa just. But I think overs is where I'll be going for this one. I'd be interested to hear Mark's thoughts.
Yeah, it is a short price, but it's a price that I'd have absolutely no issue backing at 1.73 shot. Mark, what do you think with this one? Any bit of line here with Adrian, or thinking otherwise?
Yeah, I think so. I'd definitely give the edge to Villa, and Villa 0 on the Asian handicap. The draw no bet is probably where I was looking at.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, I forgot that one, but that's a reasonable shout for sure. They're great away, and they take the game to opponents, don't they? That's what I like about Villa on the road.
Yeah, terrific. And, you know, it's very easy to look at Villa's recent results and say, well, they're out of form. Well, they're not really, because they effectively played Burnley off the park and lost the match. And then the previous 2 away games were at City and United, where they put out fantastic shows and really didn't deserve to lose against City. Yeah. I didn't think they deserved to lose at United either. So they're a team who are very comfortable in their own skin. And you look at Southampton, who are very much alike in that regard. But as you mentioned, the defensive players who are missing, Walker-Peters will be out, Vestergaard will be out. I know Bertrand's back from suspension, but definitely that's a downgrade in the fullback area without the first choice back 4. And I mentioned it a few times now as well, but I just think Saints are kind of riding the regression wave a little bit, because they were potentially overperforming a little bit earlier in the season, and that's because of Danny Ings' outstanding finishing, but also James Ward-Prowse's superb set pieces, not just scoring goals, but also creating them as well. So Saints have scored quite a few goals from quite low quality opportunities. And you look at their underlying data, they've actually generated the 4th lowest expected goals output from open play. In terms of XG that excludes penalties, they still rank as the 6th worst in the Premier League. So not creating enough for me going forward. So they might be reasonably solid defensively, and also missing a couple of key players this weekend, but they're not creating enough going forward, whereas that's certainly not the issue for Aston Villa, who I think behind Liverpool and Man City are creating the most chances in the Premier League, which is quite incredible really, considering where they were 12 months ago. So yeah, I mentioned they've had a couple of tough games, so I don't think they're going to be too fussed about going to St Mary's. My only thing kind of holding me back from making this quite a strong play really, it's just a schedule, because they had to go to Burnley on Wednesday night, and then they have to go to Southampton on Saturday. Obviously 2 quite long journeys for Aston Villa, quite little time to recover. So that's why I'd be going down the draw no bet market, or the 0 handicap at 188. Otherwise, I'd be looking at the Villa price and saying there's an opportunity here for them. But yeah, I think the rest advantage is also with Southampton. They played Tuesday night, didn't they? Villa played Wednesday night. Yeah. So 24 hours can be quite critical too. So play it safe and take Villa on the Asian handicap was my angle.
Yeah, no, I'd endorse that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. It is a small but short mark. It's 1.86, but look, it's not majorly one to get upset about. But I do.
Watkins is someone we haven't mentioned. I mean, he's hit form.
Yeah,
I would fancy him to do some damage.
There's so much more to Aston Villa than Jack Grealish, and he is quite rightly the most influential player at one club, I think, in the Premier League. But you know, Traore just takes the burden off him from the other side. So you've also got, as you said, Barkley, McGinn, I think, is back from suspension as well. You look at the fullbacks who've improved, or Matt Targett definitely has, and Matty Cash has come on leaps and bounds since he stepped up a level too. There's so many threats in that team, even from set pieces. Two giants at centre half come out from the corners and free kicks. I just think they've got so many different ways of beating you and hurting you that they can cause any team problems, as City found out.
Yeah, I like it. Let's move on to, obviously, the game of the weekend, which is obviously takes place in the Hawthorns, West Brom against Fulham. I can't wait for this one. It's a Saturday at 3:00 kickoff, so obviously we want to be keen in for this one. West Brom, the Sam Allardyce revolution has not begun in such a great manner. 3.46. And if I told you that Fulham were a 2.37 favourite away from home, you'd say there's only one team that they could be. I wouldn't even say they'd be this price against Sheffield United. Not a hope. 3.24 is the draw. West Brom getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap, just under 1.92 on the total. Unsurprisingly, is a pretty low one at 2.25. Right, Mark O'Hare, take it away. I don't think we're backing overs in this one. Just a hunch.
No, I don't think so. I don't know where to start with this one, to be honest. West Ham and Allardyce are getting a lot of grief, and understandably so. I don't think it was ever going to change overnight, but he has had quite a difficult run of fixtures to deal with as well. But I guess the performances and the results have been so awful that quite understandably he's been getting pelters for them. But as we know, the picture can change quite dramatically. And you look at this game, and then the next game for West Brom is against Sheffield United. They take 4 or 6 points from those two games. They're straight back into the survival race. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. I don't think Allardyce will be too experienced to do so, but he'll be emphasising the importance of this game to his team all week. They'll be well drilled into the players that this is a massive match and very much the traditional 6-pointer. But it's going to be difficult for them because Fulham have been on the right track for a while now. They might not be getting the results or the wins, but they've certainly been much more competitive. That's been when Parker's started to bed in those summer signings. Quite a few interesting welcome additions in key areas, and they've started to make telling contributions. The kindest comment you can say about Fulham is they've been difficult to beat. They've only lost by 2 goals once since September, and that was against Manchester City, which is understandable. So the market does like them quite strongly. I think that's more to do with West Brom's awful data figures, because they are ranked as the worst team in the Premier League by a country mile. And Fulham have been reasonably solid too. But I kind of looked at this game. It's your archetypal 6-pointer. Fulham unbeaten against bottom 6 rivals, 3 draws and 1 win. But all 4 of those games went under 2.5 goals. West Brom against the bottom 6, 1 win, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Both defeats actually came on the road. 4 of those 5 games went unders as well. So unders, I think if you look around where the market is, you could be getting around 185, 190. So that definitely does appeal, considering the magnitude of the match. 7 of Fulham's last 8 have gone unders. So I definitely do want to get a low-scoring game on side as well. But the draw is another big runner here, I think, as well, just because I think both teams would understandably settle for it. And the onus is really on West Brom to kind of come out and try and claim the points. I'm just not sure they're going to be. I'm not sure they've got enough quality to do that, and Fulham are going to be very difficult to beat themselves, as they've shown in recent weeks. So, under 2.5 goals, I think is a standout here.
Yeah, 1.74. Adrian, what are you thinking? I get this. I have a suspicion that the 0-0 draw will go off at about 5-1 here. By the way,
it could easily finish like 0-0 or 1-1. It looks favourite, or 1-0 Fulham. Those are the 3 most realistic score lines in my opinion.
West Brom are only averaging half a goal at the Hawthorns this year in the Premier League.
I've got a stat for you. I think this is a great stat. I haven't stolen it. I've worked it out. Okay, if you take out that first 27 minutes against Chelsea, where they scored 3 goals, they've scored twice at the Hawthorns all season. That's once every 436 minutes. If you take out that crazy 27 minutes, but it's just unbelievable. It's a good job the Baggies fans aren't in there paying their good money to see it, because they'd have had precious little to cheer, wouldn't they? I mean, Fulham as well conceded 1 or less in 7 of 9 away games. They are tight on the road, and I like the 3 centre backs, Aina, the Swedish player, and Tosin Anderson, isn't it? I think they're a really solid 3. and they're much improved since Parker went to 3 at the back, and going forward as well. Lookman, I like, he's playing well. Anguissa, one of the most exciting central midfielders in the division, runs with the ball well. Loftus-Cheek, good ability. So I think there's quite a lot to like about Fulham at the moment. But yeah, this has the look of a very low scoring game. So yeah, I think under 2.5 goals is a really strong play. As is the draw. Yeah, I completely agree with Mark.
Yeah, sometimes it's an obvious one, but it's best not to overthink it.
I think so. Yeah,
very much on this one. Yeah.
I mean, you can't. I mean, you look at West Brom. I mean, obviously they're battered, weren't they, by City? Yeah, no disgrace there. You just look at where are the goals going to come from, and Robinson and Carlin Grant are the two, only really two guys, and Pereira from the penalty spot. They're the only 3 players that really you think might make it happen. And Fulham have got more for me, more tools to go and hurt West Brom. And as Mark rightly points out, Big Sam is going to drill them in this game, and he's going to say, clean sheet. It's about clean sheet mentality. That's the message he'll drill home. So yeah, I think the 0-0 is a really strong candidate.
Yeah, as much as they obviously want to win the game, not losing the game, obviously on the back of those 4 losses would be a big thing as well. Okay, let's move off that, guys. I think that's a good look, and let's just slow it down for a second. I just want to do a quick recap of the bets we have so far. Arsenal plus 0.0, 2.1, Leicester at 1.88, Villa draw no bet as well, which will appear on site at minus 0.0, and that is available at 1.86 currently at Matchbook, and West Brom Fulham under 2.5. And it's a skimpy price, 1.74, but there's a reason it's 1.74, and just a bit of security there for us as well. And if you're watching this, no, markets can fluctuate and go the other way, but chances are a lot of these will be backed. And if you haven't got a Matchbook account and you do want to get involved today, sign up at matchbook.com. If your first bet is £10 or more at odds of 2.0, which is even money or more, your next bet will be matched for 10 as well. So plenty of action to be getting stuck into over the weekend. That's for new customers only, 18s plus, and please do gamble responsibly at all times. Adrian, Clarke, EFL midweek, like I said, Bristol City 2.5. Barrow game got called off, but they were going to win. We know that. That's just the weather. What are we looking at for the weekend, mate? EFL.
Well, I'm swerving leagues 1 and 2 because the weather's okay now. I mean, most games should be on, and I do think with the COVID testing and everything that's going on, I think we'll get less postponements moving forwards. Thank goodness. The first one I'm going for is the St Andrews derby. Birmingham host Coventry. Now, Birmingham have won 2 of 13 at St Andrews this season. Haven't won at home since before Halloween. It's a long run for them. They're not scoring goals. I think they've only scored more than one time at home this season. So look, Birmingham are not a free scoring side. They're not in good form at the moment. Coventry are away, but they also play at St Andrews, of course. Now, You can flip this around. Coventry at St Andrews, 8 unbeaten. Haven't lost since late October at this particular stadium. In that run, 5 clean sheets as well. So they are very, very comfortable in the surroundings. Birmingham less so. And I just think Coventry edge it in terms of who are the better side right now. So for me, a standout is Coventry draw no bet. It comes in at pretty much even money, doesn't it? 1.99 last time I looked. I'm very confident that Coventry can avoid defeat here, and I would fancy them to win.
Yeah, Coventry available at 1.99. You said you weren't going to League 1 and League 2, but if you actually have a couple of selections up at insights.matchbook.com for League 1 and League 2, but where else in the Championship are you looking for?
I'm heading to, I like an unders, even though they're a little bit nerve-wracking to watch. But the Championship's been good for unders this season.
Not really that nerve-wracking, the Championship, by the way.
Not really. Well, I'm looking at Derby, Bristol City. Okay, it's not a huge price, under 2.5, but 8% of games at Pride Park have featured more than 2 goals this season. 8%. It's not been that exciting there. Wayne Rooney has focused very much on defensive stability, and they're improving and scoring a few more goals at the moment, but they're up against a Bristol City team. Don't give a lot of way. 5 of their last 8 games have been under 2.5 goals. And Bristol City as an attacking force, even though I backed them to beat Huddersfield, look at the stats of the game. They were crazy. Bristol City had 4 shots. Huddersfield had over 20. I was a little bit lucky, really, in terms of that coming in. So I looked at the previous game as well. Hardly any shots. 7 shots from Bristol City across the last 2 matches. Okay, they played Norwich in the previous game, but 7 shots to 2 shots on target across the last 180 minutes for Bristol City. So they're not exactly flying going forward at the moment either. So for me, under 2.5 is my pick there.
Yeah, it's short enough of 1.7, but don't forget, obviously, in Matchbook, you can do loads of multiples. And I will say on this one, I quite cheekily do text Adrian Clarke some Saturday mornings looking for some championship unders. And believe me, he's a good man for a championship under. Away from the championship on the continent, Mark O'Hare, you're going to Germany first. FC Hollywood are catching you right.
Yeah, they're playing Hoffenheim, and I just want to cast your mind back to late September. Bayern Munich went 120 minutes in the Super Cup final against Sevilla in Budapest, and then just a couple of days later they had to go to Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga. Now, Hansi Flick did make a couple of changes. Robert Lewandowski was left on the bench, but they just looked really, really tired in that game, and Hoffenheim absolutely sensed blood. Went for them, pressed them high, forced them into loads and loads of errors, and won the match 4-1. And it was no fluke whatsoever. They had 13 shots inside the box, 8 shots on target, and Bayern were absolutely abused, if you like, in the press based on that result. And it was quite embarrassing, really, because Hoffenheim's manager, or the head coach, Sebastian Hoeneß, got the job last summer. Previously, he was Bayern's reserve team manager, and his nephew is Uli Hoeneß, who is the former Bayern president. So there's quite a few links there. It was all quite embarrassing for Bayern Munich, and I just sensed that revenge could be in the air this weekend. Bayern have had their wobbles this season, notably being knocked out of the DFB Pokal by Holstein Kiel not so long ago, but they've reacted reasonably well. I know it was only Schalke, but they demolished them last weekend. Had over 30 shots in that game. And despite the apparent wobbles, they're still 7 points clear at the top, which is saying something. 13 wins from 18 league games, 6 from 8 in Munich, I should say.
Well, it doesn't help, though. Like you're saying about the 7 points, like Mainz beating Salzburg, and then Dortmund just laying eggs every second week as well. It just doesn't help. They're being given an assist there, No,
I mean, it's very hard to sort of praise and kind of love the Bundesliga right now when Bayern Munich just keep romping to victory, but I expect them to do that this weekend, because I do think they're going to be keen to set the record straight after what happened earlier in the season. And Hoffenheim themselves, if you look at raw results, 3-0 back-to-back wins against Hertha Berlin and Köln, both 2 very much out of form teams. But not so long ago, they were absolutely hammered by Schalke 4-0, failed to fire as well against Bielefeld. So they're not in any great shape themselves. I'm very surprised that Hoeneß kept his job after those 2 results, actually. And they've actually lost 7 of 8 games against the top half. And only 3 sides in the league this season have conceded fewer goals, or more goals, I should say, than Hoffenheim. So I think they're very vulnerable, and just surprised that you can get Bayern Munich minus 1 3/4 at 1.8. It was 1.77, slight drift there. Very rarely can you make money out of Bayern winning by 2 goals or more at the Allianz Arena. So I'm taking it while I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much there. Are you saving your second bet for best bets, Mark, or do you want to go for that?
No, I'll go with it now very quickly. Spezia didn't do us justice against Torino not so long ago, and then played out a thrilling 4-3 with Roma last weekend, which showcased that the best and worst of them. Newly promoted team who love to play forward-thinking football. They were 3-1 down away at Roma, got it back to 3-3 in stoppage time, switched off and conceded the winner 30 seconds later. That's just what they're about, really. So you look at their game against Udinese this weekend, Sunday morning, both teams to score at 1.9. Looks too big to me. Again, on home turf, 7 of 9 home games for Spezia have featured 3 or more goals. 7 of 9 have seen both teams scoring. In 19 games overall, they've scored in 15, and they've also conceded in 15. Look at Udinese. They've probably had a tag of being Serie A's most boring team over the last couple of seasons, but that's not really the case this time around. They are playing some good football. They have got some quality in forward areas at the moment, and particularly away from home, they do come out of their shell and look to score goals. They've only actually failed to score once on the road since the opening day, and they've scored twice or more in 4 of 9 away days. Both teams are scorers, banked in 8 of their last 11, as well as 7 of 9 away as well. So I expect them to score, but Spezia, as they always do, tend to play forward-thinking football and should get on the score sheet as well. So 1.9 on both teams to score looks quite big.
I'm going to say this about the Serie A. The last couple of days I've been watching Coppa Italia games, and I saw last weekend Atalanta and AC Milan. Don't get me wrong, there's the odd bad game we've been on. There was one game in particular. What was that Friday night game where we backed? Was it Udinese against Sassuolo? And it was one of the worst games I've ever seen. But invariably, the quality is just teams just going for it. It's just amazing to watch
compared to what we see over here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a great watch. So if you have BT Sport, they do terrific coverage of it. Check it out. I honestly, there's just great entertainment. Even that Atalanta 3-0 win, you might look at that and say 3-0 win, but just both teams just going for it. It's just great entertainment.
What a tough job you've got, Sully, eh? Tough job.
Very tough job, man. TV's just there.
Italian football, German football.
Yeah, I've got my desk here, got my laptop here, and the other screen here, mate. This is the absolute dream job, Adrian.
It's lockdown like it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. No kids around. It's fantastic. Yeah. I'm not gloating there, by the way. Absolutely not gloating. Those people who have kids and schools are closed, myself and Mark, are not gloating at all. Weekend best bets. Adrian, Clarke, take it away. What's your top selection?
Well, I'm going to shamelessly plug my insights column. So please do have a look at it if you get the chance. I've got two picks on there this weekend. One of them is my best bet. It's a relegation 6-pointer at the bottom of League One. It's Northampton hosting Wigan, and I really fancy Northampton here for a variety of reasons that I sort of outline in the column. Mainly because they are awful against the best teams, just hardly score a goal, picked up 1 point against teams in the top 11. Against teams 12th or below, they are dynamite. They're promotion material in terms of they averaged around 2 points per game against teams in the bottom half, and they're improving. The recent form against good teams has got better. They've got draws against Sunderland, Fleetwood. They've beaten Gillingham. Narrowly were beaten at Lincoln. Creditable result. And Wigan on the flip side, just been tonked 5-0 at home by Blackpool. They're doing brilliantly given what's going on there. 2 of their best players have been linked with moves away this week, with the window obviously closing very shortly. So I don't think it's going to be an ideal build-up for them. Northampton will not be in the mood to make this easy for Wigan. And I just think the price is really good on them. 2.43 you can get on Northampton to beat Wigan. That's my best bet.
Sounds good. Marco, here your top selection for this weekend?
Yeah, I've already mentioned it. It's Bayern Munich to cover a -1 3/4 Asian handicap. The goal expectancy is around 4 for this match. Obviously, very, very, very high with Bayern Munich involved. But they showed last weekend that they are getting back to their ruthless selves after a few dodgy performances. I think if you've got a goal expectancy of around 4, you're expecting Bayern to cover at least a 2-goal handicap, aren't you, against a Hoffenheim team who can't defend for toffee. So, yeah, should be a decent game. Hoff do like to play forward-thinking football themselves. Kramaric is playing and scoring goals, but Bayern just have too much going forward at the moment. Yeah,
Joshua Kimmich coming back in there as well is huge for them. Obviously, they lost Thiago during the summer, and they're just missing someone there in the centre of midfield. All right, gentlemen, out of time. Thank you so much as ever. Adrian, Mark, thank you. We will be back next Monday again. Lots of Premier League fixtures midweek, and we'll hopefully keep our midweek run going, but hopefully we'll have a profitable weekend also. Mark, Adrian, thank you so much. We'll be back, as I said, 5:30 live on Matchbook's Twitter, Facebook and YouTube channels next Monday. But for the weekend and for us, have a good one.